Today we're talking about dopamine and your brain and what that means. I'm reading a book called Atomic Habits by James Clear, and one of my favorite authors, great, really smart guy. And in this book, there's a section all about habits, of course, and the section I'm on here is the dopamine spike, and the little graphs there that shows how our dopamine responses in certain situations spike. And the dopamine we feel it, we experience dopamine. You don't know necessarily that you're experiencing, but you do. When you feel disappointment, that's a lack of dopamine. When you feel excitement and motivation, that's an increase in dopamine. That's a spike or a dip in this chart, in these graphs. So when we understand this and we really consider what it is that is affecting or shaping our decisions, when we consider that we use these cue, reward, response, triggers, all these habit loops, we can begin and we get a handle on the fact that they are operating in our life. There are cycles and their patterns. We call them habits. But we have small habits. We also have big habits that repeat on bigger cycles that aren't as easy to see. But when we begin to examine them and see them, and the other critical part of this that I've come to find is that you got to come to peace with it, basically. You've got to understand that you've got to begin owning your behavior. And that part can be hard because we have so many conditions around it. Our mindset tends to be geared towards punishment, wrongdoing, mistakes, things like that. And when we feel that way, what we want to do, we become smaller, we shrink. We are basically experiencing pain on the inside, and so on the inside we get smaller and smaller because we're trying to avoid the pain. Now, where's the pain coming from? The pain comes from, we would say it comes from, Joe Schmo or Sally Smithereens or whoever it is that we think is bothering us, or whatever our life situation is, whatever our body circumstance is. But really where the pain comes from is from our perception. It's from an interpretation of what we're seeing. And that interpretation becomes a reality for us within us. And this is like a biochemical thing. It's a biochemical reality in a sense because we feel it. We experience it. And it's that experience that we are attaching to what we see. And that becomes sort of a cue or a trigger. Like when you see yourself in the mirror. That could be a trigger for a certain emotional experience. And you think, oh, I hate my body. I hate the way that I look. But what you hate is what you've determined, what you've judged yourself to be. You hate how you've judged yourself. But it's not as easy to see that all the time because we can't see past our judgments. When we make those beliefs they're little, they're walls, they're little prisons that we make for ourselves. And the door is always open, but we're faced against the belief this side of the wall, and if we just turn around and look the other way, we'd see, by believing this, I'm hurting and I'm stuck. But if I choose different, if I think differently, if I practice a different mindset, there's freedom on the other side. And this is a very big topic, and it's a topic I love. I want to get more clear about. I've had my own experiences and my own practice of coming to understand this stuff just in my own personal experience. But being able to put words to it is still a little tricky for me. So that's one of the reasons I'm doing these videos, is to try to get more clear in my descriptions and also my understanding too, because you learn by teaching. So anyhow, those dopamine spikes, we can begin to change our habits and our routines, and we can do it incrementally. And really, it comes down to mindset, and that's where I think where I tell my clients to start, because starting is not getting on the treadmill, or it's not even necessarily coming up with a meal plan. Those are good places to start when you start doing things to make those changes. But really stepping back and encompassing the parts, it's really a journey. It's a process of realizing that all those things that make you up are is much bigger than you realize. Anyway, today was a bit of a babble. I hope it was helpful for whatever, and I'm getting better at these.